For a lot of you watching, Android Oreo Go Edition, or Android Go as it's sometimes known, might not be personally applicable to you, but it will be to the next billion people who buy smartphones. Android Go is essentially a configuration of Android Oreo that scales it down in a way to make it work really smoothly and really seamlessly on low-end devices, specifically devices with 1 GB or less of RAM. Google first announced Android Go at its I/O Developer Conference last summer, but we are finally getting our chance to take Android Go devices for a spin here at Mobile World Congress. We figured, let's take a walk and see how these things really hold up. Let's talk about performance. These are devices, after all, with just 1 GB of RAM, and that's obviously going to limit things a little bit. But I gotta tell you, after using a device like this, the Alcatel One X, it's maybe not as limited as you think. Android Go isn't just streamlined to run properly on devices like this, it's meant to kind of make everything feel consistent and almost elegant in a way that you don't always get out of cheap Android devices. So using something like this, which has a pretty sweet 18:9 screen, by the way, you get an experience that is a little bit slower. Some apps can take a little longer to launch than others, but in general feels perfectly usable. And I should also point out that Android Go phones all use Google's suite of Go-enabled apps, which, among other things, are designed specifically to reduce the load on the processor and the amount of data they take up. Data usage, obviously, a big concern in developing markets, so that's what Android Go is really meant to do. But after having used a device like this, you get the impression that no, this is a compromise in some ways, but you're never really limited. This is full, true Android. And I have to say, the Go apps work very well as well. I actually might switch to some of these to use full time on my flagship devices. So yeah, the Alcatel One X is a fascinating little device, but I don't think it's the best looking Android Go phone. For that, we had to go see what was going on at Nokia. One thing we've seen with the few Android Go devices we've seen here at Mobile World Congress is that most of them tend to look a bit on the drab side. I will say, however, that Nokia's first Android Go phone, the Nokia One, is a different story. It feels a bit more capable. It has a polycarbonate body, and frankly, it just has that classic, friendly, Finnish Nokia vibe about it. This thing comes in multiple colors, all of which match the 3310 reboot that we saw just here last year, and it's quite a nice device to hold. I should also point out that this is $85, and that's maybe not as inexpensive as we were expecting the first round of Android Go devices to be, but it's certainly a step in the right direction, and I think it's fair to say we're going to see the prices on these phones get much cheaper over time. I gotta say, I much prefer the Nokia One's everything, really, to the Alcatel. It's a little bit smaller, it has a 4.7-inch display, so kind of harkens back to the smartphone design of old, but it feels fun and it's whimsical. Android Go is a fascinating project, and it's going to help a lot of people experience modern smartphone features in devices that just don't cost a lot of money. That's super valuable. Ultimately, this just breeds compatibility and consistency across Android. People will be able to get access to the same modern smartphone features at more or less the same time, no matter how much you pay for your phone. That, to me, is what's really powerful about Android Go. So for that, Google, thanks.